Hi there. I'm out on this gloomy gray day in late December, a couple days before Christmas. A couple of days ago I saw a video on YouTube from one of my favorite YouTubers, Econo Challenge, talking about some chaga he harvested about a year ago, and he went back and took a look at it and looked at its growth. And that piqued my interest because a year ago I went back in my forest and did the very same thing and harvested a pretty large chunk of chaga myself. And you can see the traditional typical yellow color of the chaga where I cut it off, and then the oxidized or blackened end that was exposed to the elements. And it's pretty good size. It's a little smaller than a softball, a little bigger than a hardball, but you should see the size of the fungus growth on this yellow birch that I took this off. Anyways, when I saw Econo Challenge's video, he talked about how little the chaga had grown since he had harvested. So I went back 3 days ago to take a look at mine. My yellow birch is in the part of the woods that I don't walk to very often, partly because it's remote, about a 25-minute walk, and partly because there's lots of ticks in there. And Copper and I have had lots of experience with ticks, don't we, buddy? So it's late December. Actually, today it's about 6 or 7 degrees, so it is tick temperature outside. You be careful with that. You like that, eh? It is tick temperature outside, so we do have to make sure when we come inside that we're well protected. And we've taken off all the ticks, or else we'll get them on us, won't we? Well, not you. You've got your medicine on. But you give them to me after they don't want to bite you, right? Yeah, that's the way it goes. Anyways, come and join us for our walk, and we'll take a look at the growth or lack of growth on our huge hunk of chaga fungus that's growing on our big yellow birch tree. See you in a few minutes. That's not food. That's not food. You'll notice right now that we're in the middle of a cedar forest, which is really quite nice. It's kind of swampy on 3 sides. Combination of cedar and hemlock in here. No matter what time of the year, it's always dark and spooky in here, but it's really pretty. Very soft, very quiet. I mean, aside from the trucks and the 401, of course. Anyways, we're getting close. We've arrived at my destination, which is a 2 pair or 2 massive old yellow birch trees. And there's a number of healthy yellow birch trees around here. I'll show them to you in a minute, but these 2 are very, very old and still growing strong. I was here in the summer and they leaf out just fine, but you can see behind me here is a massive chunk of chaga. I took some pictures of it in the last 2 days. One day when it was a bright sunny morning, the next morning was snowy, and today rainy. So welcome to Christmas in Ontario this year. Yay to global warming. But you can see this massive piece right here. It's got to be about the length of 2 footballs. This is its biggest profile, and on the other side, which is the east side, looks a little smaller, but it's very wide in the front as well. And if you can get in close and see, you'll notice that there's a little bit of growth, about 3 or 4 maybe 4 millimeters of growth this past year. You can see it just peeking out there. But what's interesting is I took off a piece of chaga last year, about this big on the other side, and it's a little smaller than a softball, and I've harvested a few pieces off here to use for my camping trips, but to be honest with you, I have no use for it, so I don't plan on harvesting any more chaga. But I just took it off just because I didn't believe what it was until I went to great channels like Econo Channel and learned about chaga fungus. And a couple of days ago he had a video about chaga growth and how slow it was. So I came out here to see what I did last winter and how much growth there was, and I was kind of surprised, especially after what Econo Challenge told me. Stay tuned. So we're on the other side of the yellow birch. There's the front of the piece of chaga right there, quite wide, if you look at my hand. And then coming around here, you'll notice it looks like the chaga grew around an old stem. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it grew around an old stem. And then right here, I took my hatchet last year and whacked out a piece. It was right inside there. You kind of see how it resembles, but it was right inside it. All of this, I'm going to put that down for a second. All of this right here has grown to replace it. And I was amazed because Econo Challenge's harvested tinder wound did not grow as fast. We have a huge chunk right in here that replaced this chunk that I took out last winter. And you can see that characteristic yellow. This characteristic, you leave that alone. You can see the characteristic yellow of the new chaga growth there as well. So I found that pretty interesting. The only explanation I can have, or that I kind of figured out, was that maybe the growth didn't happen throughout the whole piece right here, but it actually, the growth, the new fungus kind of just squeezed out, like extruded out of the piece right here. So this massive piece only formed this new chunk over the summer. That's my explanation. What do you guys think? I'm standing in front of one of, oh, there must be dozens and dozens of yellow birch trees that are around our massive yellow birch tree right here. And this one's about 14 inches in diameter, looking very healthy, very tall, doing quite well. And it would be medium in size. There's some smaller than this, 10 meters over there. There's one about 6 inches wide, and there's some that are about twice as wide as this in terms of their diameter. So lots of yellow birch out here doing very well. None of them with chaga fungus. Only grandpa tree back here, or grandma, these two trees right here. And they look like they're old and dying, but really they're doing quite well. I come out here in the summer and they leaf out. There's lots of dead limbs on it, of course, but the tree itself seems to be doing quite well, and perhaps that's in part to the fact that the chaga is growing on it. Who knows? But I thought I would point that out. I don't know if you can see in the distance, it's probably hard, but there's a very large yellow birch off in the distance over there. They're everywhere. They're probably the children of the massive yellow birch tree here. Who knows? But it's a pretty special place, and I plan on making sure that chaga stays there as long as I'm walking back here in these forests. I'd like to do a shout out to a couple of YouTubers that I watch faithfully and really appreciate their work. The first is Winter Trekker. He does amazing expeditions, and he does them solo, and he's a very authentic expeditioner, very authentic backcountry camper. And I just like the quality of his work and the body of work. Joe Robinette Bushcraft, I think he's from Southern Ontario, does an amazing job of keeping it fun, keeping it real, getting out in the forest and practicing your skills. And that's originally how I got interested in I mean, I love to camp, but I wanted to increase my skills. So guys like Joe are very important. And Econo Challenge as well, I watch his channel quite often in the same way. He often adds an element of natural history to his videos that I like, and I think he lives kind of close to us here in Eastern Ontario. I recognize a lot of the geography. Guide You Outdoors is an American duo, two guys that do a great job of inspiring you to just get outdoors and enjoy things, and that's what I'm doing here, not too far from my home.